Wish anybody on 0207 224 2000. The voices you hear in this programme tonight, this is me, Simon Lederman. Paul Osborne is our political commentator. Robert Meakin is a newspaper columnist. And Sue Street is an executive head teacher for 3 schools in London. Another friend of the programme is on the line now. His name is Jonathan Davis. He's an economist, he's a wealth manager, and he joins us live on the programme this evening. Welcome, Jonathan. Thank you for joining us. What is your reaction to this exit poll?
I think, like everyone, I'm in a mild state of shock. A few hours ago, it was for me a big, massive yawn, and at 10:15, I suddenly woke up.
And obviously, for those in the financial sector, and you could argue that is an exceptionally select group of people, but if you think about the numbers of people in this city who have pensions invested, even without their knowledge in the city, a Conservative majority, and a significant majority at that, even though it's short of a majority that is workable, certainly being the largest party, that is good for those people in the city, isn't it?
I think that's what people would generally expect, but actually the city did fantastically well between 1997 and 2010 during the Labour years. So actually the city is supported by both of the major parties. Right,
and when you say up until 2010, that's avoiding talking about that strange year called 2008.
Well, you know, crashes happen, booms happen, crashes happen. You know, that guy who said he's ended boom and bust, what a load of rubbish that was, particularly because he said it, Gordon Brown said it just a few weeks before we saw the peak. No, there are booms, there are busts. It's what happens.
And when you think about what we've had in the last 5 years, so therefore we've had the Conservative Lib Dem coalition, first time we've had a coalition in most people's memory, was that successful? And if it were to continue, as looks certainly likely based on that exit poll, would that be good for the city? Because it's stability that the city craves.
Yeah. Most of the city certainly want stability, and if you look at the markets in Tokyo tonight, which I have done, the city, as in the financial sector, is applauding what apparently is the case. If this exit poll is to be believed, we've seen the pound surge in value. We've seen what we call the futures on the FTSE 100. So we can expect a big jump in the FTSE 100 when it opens at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning.
Jonathan, stay there. We'll come back to you in a few moments' time, but I want to cross live to Harriet Harman. Harriet, of course, is the Deputy Leader of the Labour Party, and she joins us live on the programme this evening. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. What do you make of that exit poll?
Well, we're sceptical of it. It doesn't feel quite right to us. I mean, we feel we've had a really strong campaign and a strong connection with people's concerns about their falling living standards and their worries about the NHS, and obviously a very strong campaign in London where we're hoping to make some gains.
I know that you probably don't want to base too much of this conversation on it, but given so far that is what we have, it would suggest that the campaign that the Labour Party ran was really not successful.
Well, that's why we're not putting a huge amount of store on it, because it doesn't feel quite right to us. And when there's been a very close battle all the way through, and where you expect the result to be close, then you know that it's difficult for the exit polls to predict them accurately, especially when you've got 650 seats. So I think exit polls have been wrong in the past, and we're thinking this might be an occasion, but there won't be any harm done because they'll all be counted, and at the end of the day we will know exactly where we are.
I know you won't have listened to the entire programme, Sophia. Indeed, I'd be flattered if you'd listened to any of it, given the schedule that I'm sure you're under. But some of our callers earlier, one in particular, talked about the conversations that he had, and one of the things that he was saying people were telling him is that they had changed their vote from the Labour Party to Conservative, which I think raised an eyebrow for many of us, because they feared involvement by the SNP. Was that a great fear, and certainly a connected fear for you and particularly Ed Miliband? He went to very great pains to say there would be no link-up, no deal, no coalition with the SNP. Do you think that message ran home largely enough?
Well, I think the Conservatives felt that they didn't have a very good record of their government and people had lost out under their government and that they didn't really have much to offer for the future. So that being the case, they decided to sort of hope that their best hope would be the SNP winning in Scotland, and that they could set England against Scotland by suggesting that we would go into a coalition with the SNP. So Ed Miliband quite rightly had to say, well, actually, that is not the case. We are not going to be going into coalition with the SNP. But those fears were raised by the Conservatives in a rather desperate way because they didn't have anything positive to say about themselves. But Ed Miliband was absolutely clear there's not going to be any coalitions, any deals, any tie-ins with the SNP. And people were concerned about that.
I'd be a fool if I didn't ask you this. You may indeed be a fool yourself if you did answer it. But if that exit poll is correct, what will be the future for Ed Miliband? He presumably can no longer lead the party.
Well, even if the exit poll is correct, it looks as though the coalition's majority is all but wiped out. So it's not entirely clear what the position would be if the exit poll was correct, because it's showing the big fall in the coalition's majority that they've had over the last 5 years. I mean, over the last 5 years, they've had a majority of over 70 and a majority of 73, and it looks as though if the exit poll's right, that would have been wiped out. But it's really not worth commenting on.
But if sorry to interrupt, Paul Osborne here, looking over some of the results, and if the exit poll is right. After 5 years of campaigning against the Conservative Party and the Liberal Democrats, not only have the Conservatives increased the number of seats at the polls, correct, you've gone down in the number of seats. I mean, Lord Mandelson's already said this evening, he says it's very difficult indeed to see Ed Miliband as Prime Minister after this.
Well, I mean, I think the fact that it shows us going, it shows that that's what the disposition is across the House of Commons according to this exit poll, is why we don't think the exit poll is right.
Is it? You don't think it's right because it's not what you wanted?
No, it's not what it feels like to us. And I noticed that some of the other party leaders have been, I think, Paddy Ashdown, I heard him say he would eat his hat if the poll was right, that the Lib Dems have only got 10 seats. Well, he might be wrong, but I think we've all got to, our only sense we can have is what has been on the ground when we've been out and about campaigning. And I think there's been a lot of concern about the NHS, a lot of concern about the living standards, not a lot of popularity for the Cameron government. And therefore, I would be surprised if this opinion poll was right. And therefore, that being the case, it's quite difficult for me to hypothesise. We've just got to wait, I think, until we get the results. And
if it is wrong, and let's hypothesise a little bit more if we can. If it is wrong and there is a chance for the Labour Party to link up with somebody else in order to gain a workable majority, it would have to be the SNP. And the promises that Ed Miliband made numerous occasions in various debates and elsewhere, they were foolhardy, weren't they?
Well, no, I think it was absolutely right for him to say very clearly there wouldn't be any coalition with the SNP or any deals, and we wouldn't be negotiating our Queen's speech with them or our budget with them, because we made our promises to the British people and we've set them out. But the constitutional position is that who forms the government, who is the Prime Minister, is whoever the House of Commons will give a majority to. And the question is whether or not David Cameron can still carry on with a majority, or whether or not he's lost that majority, in which case it will fall to Ed Miliband as leader of the opposition to put forward the next Queen's speech. And then it's down to the other parties to decide whether they'll back that Queen's speech or not.
And just lastly, obviously London has often been a very powerful Labour area, usually Labour dominated, certainly in some of the specific seats that we talk about on this station and we've been debating this evening. Are you concerned about some of those seats potentially going? I mean, you're in Camberwell and Peckham. There's every chance you will still be there come the morning, but not all your colleagues may be that lucky.
Well, I think that we are feeling very confident in the work that our colleagues as Labour MPs in London has done, and the sense that London could do a great deal better than even it has been doing. So I think that we're hopeful of gaining seats in London, certainly not losing them.
All right, Harriet Harman, thanks for joining us live on the programme tonight, Deputy Leader of the Labour Party. It's interesting, we'll go back to Jonathan Davis in one moment, just some reaction to that from our guest in the studio. actually. Paul Osborne, first of all, it's interesting how many of the politicians, and she mentioned quite rightly Paddy Ashdown, who I think we heard an excerpt from him earlier on saying the I will eat my hat line, they are distancing themselves from this poll, except, of course, for those from the Conservative Party.
They're all being cautious about this because this poll is so out of kilter with every other survey that's been done. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's wrong. It would just mean that every other opinion poll during the election campaign had been wrong. But something that Harriet Harman said there that we do need to remember, while if this is correct, the Conservatives have done much better than we expected and Labour have done much worse than we expected, the fact would remain, if it were right, that the Conservatives still don't have a majority and their potential coalition partners are pretty thin on the ground. If the Liberal Democrats are reduced to 10 seats, well, add that to the Conservatives and you only just crawl over the victory line at 326. Would they even want to? Because look what happened as a result of the last coalition they went into. They've lost, according to the exit poll, 47 seats. The only other party they could really partner up with the Democratic Unionists in Northern Ireland. You're talking there about maybe 8 seats. So that thing that Harriet Harman said, whoever is Prime Minister, whoever gets to govern, is whoever can command, in the appropriate words of Parliament, the confidence of the House. Now, you need to be able to win a confidence vote. Who would David Cameron partner up with, however strong his own personal position may be, in that result, to guarantee that he could get legislation through the Commons? Paul
Osborne, thanks very much indeed. We'll come back to our other guests very soon. But Jonathan Davis is still on the line, economist and wealth manager. Over the last 5 years, we've consistently heard from the Conservative-led coalition that they have a working plan. It is a plan that is delivering. It is the long-term economic plan. If that continues, which it may well do based on that result, is that good news for the city? And is it enough? Or is it not really a genuine recovery, which many people do argue?
Well, first of all, Simon, it's never been a long-term plan. They said in 2010, by 2015, i.e. now, the government would be borrowing zero, when in fact they've borrowed over £90 billion in the last year. In fact, over the last 5 years, this Conservative-led government, which was apparently going to eradicate borrowing, actually borrowed more than Labour did. That's saying something. Is this good for the city? Assuming that David Cameron remains as Prime Minister, yes, it'll be good for the city, but you know what? The city always does well, irrespective of what happens in the little United Kingdom. And I say that pointedly because it's the global economy that will affect what happens to the city and indeed to the London economy. And I will just suggest to you that whatever the Chancellor, whoever that is, says over the next week or so, I tell you, over the next few years, there's very likely to be another global economic shock. That's when whatever they say they're going to do, the ship will be totally blown off course because we'll be back to 2008.
All right, Jonathan, thanks very much for that for now. I want to cross, if we can, to Brent and Andy Rowley, who is... evening to you, Andy.
Hi, Simon.
What is the situation? Sonny, what is the scene